Wow. It's such a raw and real way to deal with severe depression and severe grief. Oh my word! So freaking good! Hey everyone, welcome back. Welcome to the Ultimate World Music Reaction channel, all about music and psychology and so much more. Celebrating our big 100,000 subscribers milestones. Welcome to all of you who are new. I'm so honored that you're here and that you chose to subscribe to this channel. If you haven't yet, make sure. We've got goals. We are on these rides around the world, learning, growing, and I'm so excited that I get to do this with you. I got lots of new content coming your way, so stay tuned. Today, we're going to start with. Today, I'm checking out an artist named Evan Bartels and a song called Shotgun. Shout out today goes to Ethan Fullerton. Thank you so much for your support on Buy Me a Coffee, for making this suggestion. We're going to check out the vinyl session version. And yeah, I'm excited to figure out what this is about. Evan Bartels is from Nashville, Tennessee. Evan George Bartels is an American singer-songwriter, music, and writer. Here we go. As always, subscribe and explore these awesome songs from around the world with me. This is going to be good. I can already sense it. Sometimes introductions like this.
If I'm being honest, I'm gonna lie to you. When you ask me how I'm doing, I'll use all the words we both know. You want me to, if I'm being honest. I've been thinking about the day that I don't feel anything at all, and I don't feel anything at all. I'm gonna load my shotgun, point that barrel right where it hurts. Ain't no telling where I'll go after.
Real quick, his voice is very unique. The timbre of his voice and the vibrato is distinct. Artists that come to mind just from the feel, even though they don't sound the same, are Johnny Cash, or then even a friend of mine named Davin McCoy, who doesn't have the same voice. They have their own voices and they're in their own way, but they all have a very distinct, very beautiful timbre and texture, and that subtle vibrato. I don't even know if I should say subtle. It's very distinct. It's soothing. It's a soothing voice with a certain level of rasp, and yeah, that vibrato that lingers at the end of the notes. Those are just artists that come to mind: Davin McCoy and Johnny Cash. Again, even though they have different voices and they're not the same, there's something about this feeling, and even just the way this setup is composed. These, it's not so much black and white, but it's very subtle, neutral colors, right? Grays, black, white, nude, beige. The setting of the music video is somber, a little bit depressing, a little bit downcast. Obviously, the lyrics are too. We'll talk about those in a moment. But the way that it just starts with the guitar and it sets the stage for something very somber and reflective, where the focus is the lyrics, the focus is the vocal performance, or the vocal, not even performance, that's not such a fitting word, the emotion here. There's emotion here, there's grief. And so that's interesting about this composition so far.
Ain't no telling where I'll go after. Might not be better, but it can't get worse. I cried out
Wow.
in silent desperation. I cried out. I called your name. My God, my God. Why have you forsaken me? I cried out. My words have now abandoned me. I'm gonna load my shotgun. Point that barrel right where it hurts. Ain't no telling where I'll go after. Might not be better, but it can't get worse. And I could tell you, but you can't imagine. That first breath on the edge of this chasm. You ain't cried like that since you come out your mother. Only thing holding back the great hereafter is bad primers with good timing. I'm gonna load my point that barrel right where it hurts. Ain't no telling where I'll go after. Might not be better, but it can get gonna load my shotgun.
Wow. It's such a raw and real way to deal with severe depression and severe grief and trauma. Even just reading the book called The Body Keeps the Score and learning about PTSD when it comes to not only in veterans, but those who have experienced severe trauma through abuse, neglect, and different things, and the pain that comes with feeling stuck in such distress, such pain, such turmoil, that you feel like the only way out is loading that shotgun and taking your life. There are many songs that deal with suicide. We find them in various genres and they convey various aspects. Music is this beautiful, powerful way of painting a picture, of bringing people together. It's art. And there's different ways we can talk about this topic. Here, the feeling that I get is, while it's very somber, like I said in the beginning, the way the music video was set up, the way they're all dressed in black, the way that the whole cinematography of this recording feels gloomy, dark, again, grays, blacks, neutral colors. There's not a lot of color, there's not a lot of life per se, fitting to depression, fitting to suicide, fitting to despair and loneliness and grief. While this song to me is dealing with that pain, and he so beautifully conveys this, not only in the lyrics, the more I listened, the more I got pulled in, but also through his voice. And even that's why I say earlier, I don't like to call it a vocal performance, because this is not a show. This is emotion, the rasp, the timbre of his voice, that lingering vibrato, the growls, the screaming pleas. It's so powerful, beautiful, dare I say, even though that's a heavy topic to call beautiful. The way that the instrumentation stacked from the somber and simple, for lack of a better word, introduction with the guitar, setting the tone for a moment of reflection, capturing the listener's attention, right? We are all about music and psychology, as you know. And so having a setup where it's not a lot of instruments, it's not a lot of action going on, in a very overstimulated world where it's easy to get distracted because we're so used to swiping and moving, it's helpful to have something that is stripped down back to the basics that captures people again. Where back in the day, it was normal to go to a concert and you have the full band experience and the crowd cheering and the emotions and the hype and the adrenaline. But you also had stripped down concerts where you were so intimately connected to those around you, listening to the artist playing his heart out, pouring his heart out to his listeners. We don't have that as much anymore because we got people on their phones, to a degree, understandably so. We're not going to go into detail on that. But we got people on the phones. We got people watching things through live streams and the screen. There's this disconnect. And so when you have a song like this, I could see that pulling many people in because it's back to those basics. It's back to this moment of just the singer and the artist and his guitar, the listener, and their heart and their emotion and soul on display, stripped down back to the basics, to vulnerability. And then as the instrumentation builds, beautiful as well, as that loop came in with the second guitar, as the piano kicks in, these elements, the bass, all these different instruments stacking, coming in to build a crescendo, to build that climax, but to really build the emotion, because that too, when we're talking psychology and mental health, is a wave. It's a ride. You know, we don't just operate linear as human beings when it comes to our emotions and to our distress. It also is not always this crazy up and down, though some do struggle with that or experience that struggle between the manic and depressed. But many of us, regardless of the mental state, know that life is like this. And so to have a song that deals with such trauma and with such pain, climaxing to this point of relatability and of severe anguish, it was beautifully put. The lyrics are deep, and let's talk about those for a moment. It says, if I'm being honest, I'm going to lie to you when you ask me how I'm doing. Isn't that relatable? Even those who don't struggle with severe depression or mental disorder or personality disorders, we are prone to be quick to say, I'm fine, if we're asked how we're doing, especially here in America. And in the South, it's more common to ask people compared to certain other cultures. In Germany, where I was born and raised, you don't really ask that. You talk to those who you know well. You may talk to someone you see, you greet them politely in the village, at the baker or butcher, right? But it's not as common to greet everyone with a smile on your face. It's more of a cold climate culture. And that also means everyone is more direct into themselves. Here, it's very common in the States, at least in the southern parts of America, to smile, to say, how are you? In other cultures, that's also the case, right? You have different behaviors and mindsets when it comes to the Latin American community, when it comes to Arabic and African cultures, where we interact with one another differently. And of course, that also varies from country to country. Africa, being an example, is a huge continent with so many countries. It's not all the same in one as it is in one place like the other. And so, depending on where you're from, you may be more or less used to people saying, "How are you?" And that is a question that we don't necessarily mean in the sense of tell me about your life and how you really are. It's more a formal way of being polite. And we will go through the motion and we get so accustomed that we just automatically blurt out, I'm fine, even though we may be having the worst day of our lives. So we're lying to one ourselves and each other. I'll use all the words we both know you want me to. And now we're getting a little more personal. We can take this generally speaking as a society, but now we'll get more personal. We're lying to those close to us even. We'll use the words that both know the other wants us to use. That goes, to be honest, that goes generally in a society, but also goes in personal relationships because hurting people make other people uncomfortable. If you were to ask someone in passing, how are you? Hi, thank you for holding the door. Oh, yeah. Hi, thank you for whatever. The cash lady at the register. How are you? Thank you. If a person were to respond and say, I'm not doing well, I'm not okay at all. I'm thinking of taking my life. I'm depressed. I lost my child or my spouse. I'm hurting. Most people would not know what to do. They'd be stunned. They'd be uncomfortable. Maybe they would wonder if this is a hidden camera situation, right? We've become so numb and desensitized that we might even be skeptical if this is the real deal. Because unfortunately, people also take the advantage of that. They take advantage of our draw for drama, our draw for the scandalous and the crazy, because what gets the views and therefore money. And so people have become desensitized, and Mr. Clint Davis, therapist, veteran, awesome person I had the honor of being on an interview on, he said so profoundly that people lose their ability to empathize, to have empathy. And I agree with that, right? We have people who may cry wolf, who may say that something happened to them and it actually hasn't. And now people become distrustful. And when someone's in true danger, they don't care as much. It doesn't concern us as much because we're not sure if we can believe it to begin with. It's not our problem. That, and it's uncomfortable to deal with death and painful things. So we'd rather shy away from it, and we'd rather people use the words that we both know we want them to and they want us to, right? We want people just to leave us alone. Just tell me you're fine. Make me feel better about myself. Don't make me have to confront the suffering of this world. If I'm being honest, I've been thinking about the day where I don't feel anything at all. I don't fear anything at all. And now things are turning from this. I say what you want me to hear, what you want to hear, what I'm supposed to say. But let's be honest, this is what's really happening. And it really taps into this desire to end it all. And for those of us who know that deep despair and pain where we just either consider taking our lives or we pray to God to take us, we know that pain is so deep and it's hard to put in words, and it's hard to figure out who do you say that to? Who can you trust enough to say, I am not okay? This place where you don't feel anything at all. We just want to make it all go away because we forget in that moment of despair that there's also good feelings, right? We want it all to end because either we've lost sight of the good that there is or there has not been much good in our lives lately. And all we know is pain, and we'd rather be dead than experience that. I'm gonna load my shotgun, point that barrel right where it hurts. Ain't no telling where I'll go after. And this is such a poetic way of talking about that because, of course, regardless where you point your shotgun on yourself, it's going to hurt. But to say right where it hurts, to me, could be this poetic way of saying, in my head, in my heart, right? Those fatal spots that will actually take someone's life and cause their ultimate death. The heart being a place that we refer to when we're saying we're in pain, right? Our heartache, or our mind, that battle in the mind, that turmoil we experience. But saying I'll point it where it hurts to me implies I want to get to the root of it, to right where the pain is, emotionally and physically. Ain't no telling where I'll go after. It might not be better, but it can't get worse. Okay, so even dealing with the afterlife option here, don't know what's going to happen after, right? There's been all kinds of theories and teachings about suicide and why it's bad, why it's wrong, what it does to those you leave behind, right? In religious circles, that fear of you're going to go to hell if you kill yourself, right? If it's because it's considered murder. There's all these different theories on what it means, on where you'll go, on the effects thereof. And we don't know, right? We don't know what comes after except for by faith, by belief. But we do know that it causes those left behind severe pain. And to be at such a desperate place to say it might not be better, but it can't get worse is basically to me saying it might not be heaven, it might not get better, I might not be out of my misery. I could end up in hell, it could be nothing, but at least it can't get worse. I'm so rock bottom low, it can't get worse than this. I cried out in silent desperation. I called your name, my God, why have you forsaken me? There's this parallel to Jesus on the cross, right? Crying out to the Father, saying, why have you forsaken me? I cried out when my words have now abandoned me. Okay, asking God, asking maybe others around, why have you left me? I'm crying out. Where are you, God? Right? In those low moments, those ultimate fundamental questions come to mind. Where are you? Where are you, God? Where are you, loved ones, right? My words have now abandoned me. Right now, there's nothing left to say. Words have left. The people have left. It just ultimate suffering, ultimate despair. And then the point where it says, ain't no telling where I'll go, might not be better, but it can't get worse. I could tell you, but you can't imagine that first breath from the edge of death's chasm. Poetic and powerful, right? That place of that chasm, that separation, that place between death and life. But then saying, you ain't cried like that since you come out of your mother. That is powerful because we're talking about death and life, and the beginning of life being when a baby is born and comes out of its mother, the end of life, that last cry, and people who lose someone to suicide, and those who break down because they've lost someone to death, right? That. But even when you're hurting in this world, it's this brutal, raw cry. It's innocent. It's powerful. It's brutal. It's blah. And this is just a poetic way of dealing with all of this in my mind. Only thing holding back the great hereafter, right? The afterlife is bad primers. It's good timing. Interesting. Primer is a metal cuff at the base of a shotgun shell. And so to say that it's a bad primer maybe might imply that something didn't quite work with a gun, not going off the way it was intended. It's good timing. Interesting because it's perhaps implies um, that it didn't work. So good timing, as in that's what saved my life. Is that how we could take that? And then again, saying, "Ain't no telling where I'll go after. Might not be better, but it can't get worse." And just the way that his vocal timbre, the texture, the vibrato builds, that plea, that cry is so raw, and it deals with this, and it's heavy, and it's beautiful, very artistically showcased. Powerful song, I think relatable to many of us who've experienced deep, deep despair. I hope that what your takeaway from this can be is that you are not alone. That there are those who are putting it in song, putting it in art, into poetry, into paintings, putting it into reaction videos, a place where we can talk about this, where we can say, I'm not okay. So please know that in the comment section below, I will, as much as I'm able to, make sure people don't post insensitive things or make you feel like you have to say what you're expected to say. Now, of course, YouTube blocks certain comments, and there's wisdom in communicating in an effective way. But I want you to feel like you can comment and share why this song is personal to you, how it applies. I want you to feel encouraged that you can reach out and find help and people who care, and that as much again as I'm able to, I will. No, let me not say all that because I can't. I want you to comment below. What does this song mean to you? Is this relatable? What type of impact does that song have on you emotionally and mentally? Does it encourage you? Does it cause you more despair? What does it do for you if you've ever experienced such depression, such pain, or considered suicide, or possibly even attempted it? If you're still here, let me tell you, I'm happy that you are. You are so special and you are loved. And there's a reason for your life. And I'm glad you're still here. And I'd like to know how this song impacts you. Does it pull you down even further? Do you feel like this type of song, this type of art encourages suicide, encourages going down that pathway, choosing the shotgun and loading it? Or do you feel like it actually helps people not to? Do you think it actually helps people to talk about it and therefore choose not to pull that trigger? I'd like to know from you in the comments below. I hope you know you are loved, and that even just hearing this song and me reacting to it and talking about it with you, I hope that shows you you are not alone with that pain. You don't have to say what others expect you to say. You do not have to say you're fine if you're not okay. You are loved even in that place of not being okay. As cliche as it might sound, it's okay not to be okay. You are loved and you're seen. And your life is valuable. You matter. It's worth living. You deserve to be at peace. And I hope that you can find some of that healing. I hope you reach out. There's suicide hotlines. There's resources. Don't be afraid to reach out and to speak up. That shotgun does not have to be the last thing you see. You are loved and you matter. And I am grateful you were on this ride with me today. I'll see you on the next ride. Ayo!